My name is Mike Kelly and I'm the Director of the Centre for Public Health Excellence at NICE. My job there is to lead on the development of public health guidance, which is about the prevention of disease and the promotion of good health improvement generally.
You first come across making every contact count on the Yorkshire and Humber work with regard to that?
I was contacted directly by the team that worked on it. They got in touch when the work was nearing completion because it had linked to and had made much reference to the NICE guidance on behaviour change, and I led that piece of work at NICE several years previously. In 2007, NICE produced guidance on a number of aspects of behaviour change, varying from individual level change through to community level change, societal level change even. We looked at all the factors, we drew upon expertise from psychology, sociology, anthropology, economics, to pull together what I think is quite an interesting and really comprehensive approach to behaviour change, dealing not just with the notion that it's about putting yourself together and all that kind of thing, but rather putting behaviour in general in context. The team in Yorkshire and Humber got in touch a year or so after we'd published that to say they'd been doing some work that had built upon that NICE guidance, and obviously I was delighted first of all to see that that had happened. Yep. And I was very interested to see how it worked, so I came up to Leeds, met with Karen and other members of the team, and worked through the framework. Yep. And all the work that they'd done, and I was, I must say, most impressed to see it. Because I thought it was such an interesting example of the implementation of NICE guidance, but also because it picked up on two really very important ideas. The first is that because people in the health service, public services more generally, but health services in particular, have contact with millions and millions of people every day, it makes sense to think about reinforcing ideas about good health and how they're linked to the things we do every day in our lives, to behaviour in other words. It makes profoundly good sense that everyone in the health service should see it as part of their role and responsibility to be reinforcing those things. Second, it's about scaling up, because if you do that and you do it successfully, so that every contact with everyone in the service, from someone who's pushing your trolley to the operating theatre through to your doctor's receptionist, as well as, of course, your doctor themselves, you are moving. It's possible to shift the population curve, actually. It's possible to keep those messages coming through. And why that's so important is that while we've known that a great deal of our disease burden arises from the way that we choose to live our lives, and that for many people simple changes to that can bring about massive improvements. Though we've known that for years and years and years. Yes. What we've been signally unsuccessful in doing is learning how to bring about those changes. Yes. Now, in part, but not completely, but certainly in part, the reason for that is that people coming into the service, patients, people having contact with the service, will often get very mixed messages. Yeah. So while their doctor may say, it's a jolly good idea for you to lose a bit of weight, it's a jolly good idea for you to stop smoking, if as they walk out of the doctor's surgery or walk out of the hospital and there's a ring of nurses having a cigarette outside the hospital, the mixed message is absolutely muddled and unclear. So in other words, what we need to do is make sure that everyone in the service is singing, as if you like, from the same hymn sheet. And one way to do that is to skill people up to make every contact count. It's not about cognitive behavioural therapy, it's not about deep counselling, it's simply about keeping on message about the important things that we need to do to keep ourselves in good shape. Yeah. When the guidance was first put together, we were, I think, speaking principally to the health service. The guidance was designed really with the NHS in mind, but a number of important things have happened since then. First, the new landscape of public health means that local authorities take on responsibility for public health from the 1st of April 2013. The local authority can put in place exactly the same set of principles where every contact with their constituents, every contact with the people who live in the area can be made to count in terms of keeping on message with the sorts of things that are important here. It's also, I think, fair to say that again, as we've always known, the things which determine the health of the public don't lie just within the National Health Service. They're part of a broader picture involving all the public services, yes, but beyond that too. And what I think has been so exciting, actually, about what MECC's done is that it's reached out into fire and rescue services, into local government, all those sorts of things. And really interestingly, in terms of the evaluation that we've done, it's often been the case that in those places they've been apparently much more enthusiastic about taking this forward than the health service sometimes has been. So I say sometimes, yes, that's not uniform, of course. But, you know, to see the fire and rescue services enthusiastically embracing this idea is really very, very satisfying. Although, of course, one has to say that the fire and rescue service have got a jolly good record of taking a public health approach to prevention over many, many years, and it's not just a consequence of the publication of the framework and of MECC. As I began to learn more about what the team in Yorkshire and Humberside had done, it seemed obvious to me that we needed to find out and to put onto a scientific platform a bit of an evaluation of what had gone on. And from the, I think it might have even been the very first meeting that I had with the Yorkshire and Humber team, I made the suggestion, I think, that it would be good to do that. And out of that germ of an idea, we managed, first of all, to pull together some funds, and then in a collaboration with the Sheffield Hallam University and the Manchester Business School at the University of Manchester, we were able to put together a small team and carry out a pilot evaluation, really, of the work. And that's now finished, and the report's available. And it, I think it shows what we'd picked up, as it were, anecdotally, that when you look at it systematically, MECC makes a difference. People like it. They respond to it very positively. It feels intuitively right. And not surprisingly, we found in the interviews that were done as part of the fieldwork a huge amount of enthusiasm for this kind of an approach, and that people could lock on. The message, in a sense, isn't a difficult one, because this isn't about some complicated psychological theory or some complex technology that needs to be learned how to use. It's something that people can latch onto quickly, and something that intuitively feels right. And that's one of our respondents talked about it going viral, and I think that's why it has. And even the term "making every contact count" doesn't need a whole lot of explanation. People can understand what it means, I think, quite easily. I think that's what I mean in terms of it's not complicated, it's not complex. You start from the position where teams are, where people are, where individuals are, and you work on that basis.
Your ambition for this be in the future?
Well, I think there are a couple of things that strike me as fundamentally important. The first is, because this is a scaling up process, it is the industrialisation, if you like, of something that we probably should have been doing all along. It will be very important to monitor, to keep an eye on how it develops and evolves. Partly because it's a natural thing; it can't be managed top down. It's something that has to be, and will be generative in its own terms. It will develop out of where people are. But that said, of course, the danger of that is that it can develop in 100,000 different ways. And what we don't want is 100,000 different contacts counting in 100,000 different ways. What we need is to ensure that the kind of key ideas, the key principles relating to health-related behaviour and reinforcing them are maintained. The second is that it will be very important that broader evaluations take place than just the one that we've done, and that the framework itself develops as time goes by, partly to make sure that it's applicable across the different sectors that will use it, but partly also in order to keep on top of the way this thing will evolve and develop and change. And there's more nice guidance coming down the track on behaviour change where are we now? 2012. In 2014 we'll be publishing updated guidance on behaviour change, which obviously in turn will feed back into this process.
Would you like to see this, Mike, as an approach that would be taken on other opportunities with the new guidance when it appears?
Yes, of course, we're at the very, very early stages of doing the update, so it's not possible to know quite where it will finish and the sorts of recommendations that will be made. Although this update of the guidance is a partial update in the sense that it will only be focusing on what we're calling individual level change rather than all the community level change and all those other things that were in the first guidance. We'll come to that at another point in due course. So in that sense, the update will be very, very relevant to the approach of MECC. But I hope there's an interactive process, because I think the lessons learned from MECC should feed into, and I hope they will feed into, the evidence base that will be considered by the update.